Java is the name of a programming language which was created by Sun Microsystems. It is one of the most used programming languages which allows the development of various types of applications that may run on a single machine. The platform includes the execution engine called Java Virtual Machine that allows Java programs to do the same thing on different computer systems. Java is platform independent, having robustness and supports object-oriented programming. Hello learners, I welcome you all to the tutorial of Java Basic Program. My name is Gaurav and welcome to Great Learning.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video, any queries or suggestions, and I will also respond to your comments.
Now, moving to the agenda, first we will be discussing about reversal of a string, following that Fibonacci, factorial, palindrome, prime number, and then we will move to Armstrong number, matrix multiplication pattern, and we will be also seeing what is called by value. And at last, we will see the concept of sorting of an array, right? So we will discuss each of the programming in detail with logic. So let's start with the first program, that is reversal of a string. So now we will see the logic of reversal of a string. So here, what I'm doing here, I'm creating a string and then string variable name is original. What I will do, I will take the value from the user itself in string original, right? Or let's suppose that here, in this case, this is my string and string variable is original. And inside that, let's suppose that I'm writing here great learning. Okay. And as you know that my program name is reversal of a string, so I will reverse this string. So I want my final answer to be printed from the reverse side. So it will start printing from G, N, I. So in this way I want everything to be printed. Okay. Okay, now let's see the concept here. So what I will do here, the concept is simple, right? This is a great learning. I've written here, this is a string. And if I want to do the reverse of it, so first I have to find its length. So how to find a length for the string? So I will use here length method, right? So you can see that here I've used the length method. So string name was here original. So I've used the original dot length, and here I've created a data type int whose variable name is length, and I've assigned the value of original dot length inside this. Now you can see that great learning is written here. So let me find out the length of this great learning. So length will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? So length here I am getting as 13. So as we know the length is 13, but the indexing will be starting from 0, right? So my indexing position will be from 0 to 12. So what I will do here, I will create a for loop. So inside my for loop, what I will do here, I will create an integer I and I will write length minus 1, right? Because 13th is my length of the string. That means I'm having the indexing position from 0 to 12, right? So length minus 1 I'm writing, so my length is 13, right? So 13 minus 1 will be 12, right? So what I will be getting, I will be getting G here. So that's why I put the logic length minus 1. And after that, I have also written I greater than equal to 0, right? Because I want great learning to be printed from the reverse order, right? And my indexing will be start from 12 to 0, right? Because I have written here length minus 1. So it will go from 12 to 0. That's why I is value is greater than equal to 0. And after that I am doing decrement, right? Now let's understand further. So here you can see that I have created one more string whose name is reverse, and this is my empty string, right? So what I have done inside this loop, I have written the logic reverse equal to reverse. This is my empty string. There is nothing here, right? And here you can see that I have written a method original dot character at, and then I have written here I as a parameter. So what this method will give me, so here I've written original dot character at and then I. So here it means that whatever the index value you are passing, it will give the character at the specified index, right? Let me give you an idea. Suppose I value here I am getting as 12, right? So at 12 position we are having G, right? So G is the character, so it will give me the G here. And as you know that the reverse string was empty, right? So the final I will be getting reverse is equal to G, right? So this is the first time this loop will run. After that, once again it will go, and then again the condition is length minus 1, and it will go the new indexing position that I will be getting 11, right? And in this way the loop will go on, and I will get the string in the reverse order. So this is the program of reversal of a string. And let me print out. So what I will do, then at last I will write system.out.println, and then I will write reverse. So I will get my reverse string. Now let's see the coding part of this reversal of a string. So let's start with the program. So first what I will do, I will create a class. So I will write here class, and then class name will be reverse string. So I will write here reverse and then string. So inside this class I will create a main method. So I will write here public static void main, and then I will write string args. So this is my main method. Now what I will do here, I will create a string. So let's suppose that I'm writing here string, and I will give the variable s here, string variable name. And now after this, so you can directly write that string as equal to Gaurav, or any string value you can give, but I want that string value must be given by the user input. So for that, what I can do, I will here create a scanner class. So I will write here import java dot util dot scanner, and I will create a class here. So first, before creating a scanner object, what I can do, I will write here system dot out dot println, and then I will write here enter a string that has to be reversed. So I'll write here that has to be reversed. Now after this, what I will do, so now I will create a scanner class object. So I will write here scanner, and I will write s1 is equal to new scanner, and then I will write system.in, and then so yeah, after this what I will do, I will write here s is equal to, and then I will write here s1 dot next. Since the value that I'm getting is a string value, so for that I will using the line, right? For integer, if it was there, then I can use the next int, right? So here I'll be using next line. Okay, and after this, so what I will do here, I will take the value from the user input. Now after this, what I will do, so this is my string, right? So whatever the string I am giving through the user input, so first I have to find out the length. So how to find out the length, I will write integer, and let's say length variable name is here len equal to length, and then I will write here s dot length. So this will give me the length of a string, right? And I will create one more string. So I will write here string reverse, and this will be my empty string. Why I am creating this string? Because once whatever the string that I am having will be reversed, I will store into this reverse variable, right? So let me create a loop. So I will create a loop here. So I will write here for integer I, and then I will write here length minus 1, and then I greater than or equal to 0, and then I will do the decrement. And inside this I will implement the logic, that is I will write here reverse equal to reverse plus, and then I will write here the method, that is s dot character at, and inside this by default it is already giving I parameter, right? So whatever the index value we are providing, it will give the character at that particular index. So this was my logic. And now after this, what I will do, I will write here system dot out dot println, and then I will write here reverse. Now let me execute this. So on execution, you can see that it is asking me enter a string that has to be reversed, and I can write here, let's suppose I will write here Gaurav. So you can see that I am getting the reverse of a string, right? So this was the basic program for reversal of a string. So the next program that we are having is Fibonacci series. Now let's see what is Fibonacci series. So Fibonacci series is a series in which first number is 0 and the second number is 1. So these two numbers are fixed. And if you want to calculate the next number, then you have to do the addition of previous two numbers. So here the first number will be 0 and the second number will be 1, and for calculating the third number we will do the addition of previous two numbers. So 0 and 1 will be 1 and 1 plus 1 will be 2. For the next number again 1 plus 2 will be 3, 2 plus 3 will be 5, 3 plus 5 will be 8, and in this way the series will go on, right? Now let's understand the logic for this Fibonacci series. So here, as I told you that first two numbers will be fixed, so I have created a variable first and I have assigned the value 0 into it, and then I have also created a second and I have assigned the value as 1. Then I have created a next variable, and after that I have also created I and number variable. So number variable will be used for the user input, right? Suppose that if you want to calculate the Fibonacci series up to 5 terms, so here I will give the number as 5, right, from the user input. Now coming to the I, this variable I will use into the loop, so I have declared here itself, right? So here you can see that I am also using next variable, so I will use next variable for the logic. That is, I will write next is equal to first plus second, right? Now let's understand the logic. Logic is simple. My first value is 0, right? My second value is 1, and if I want to calculate the next number, then I will write here next, and next will be first plus second, right? So first plus second will be 0 plus 1, and I will be getting next as 1. So here you can see that I'm getting the value as 1. So for calculating the next value, your first value will be assigned with the second value, and your second value will be assigned as the next value. So if you see here, now my first value will be same as the second value, so it will be 1, and my second value will be equal to the next value, and it will be 1. So if I want to calculate the next number, the next will be equal to first plus second. So my next number is 2, so I'm getting here 2. So in this way, this series will go on, right? And this is the logic. You can see that I have implemented here next is equal to first plus second, and then first is equal to second, and second is equal to next, right? So I have put two conditions. First one is if and else. Why? Because if I value will be 0 here, right, then the next value I am getting as I, right? Why? Because as I told you that 0 and 1 are already fixed, right? So let's suppose I value is 0, so 0 is less than equal to 1. Yeah, this condition is satisfied, so now my next value will be 0. So since this is a for loop, so this loop will run once again, so again I value will be 1 here, and for 1 you can see that 1 less than equal to 1. Yeah, again this condition is satisfied and my next value is 1. Since if condition is satisfied, then it will skip the else statement, and then it will print my value 0 and 1 I will get here, right? As you can see here. So once again, if my I value is 3, right, then it will skip this statement. Why? Because if I equal to 0, then 0 is less than equal to 1, it's satisfying. For I is equal to 1, again it is satisfying. But I equal to 2, it will skip if statement and jump into the else statement, and it will perform the logic that I've explained to you. So in this way, this loop will run, right? And I will be getting my Fibonacci series. Now let's see the practical example. So let's start with the coding. First I will write here class. So class is Fibonacci. So I'll write here Fibonacci. And inside this class I will create a main method. So I will write here public static void main string. Now after this what I will do, so inside this main method, first I'll create an integer, and let me write here first. So this is my variable. I will write here 0, and then I will write here second is equal to 1, and these are my first two terms, right, 0 and 1. After that I will write next. For the loop I am declaring another variable, that is I, and so after that I will be writing number, and in number I will be giving the user input. So now what I will do, let me correct it. Okay, now after that what I will do, so if you want a value to be given by the user, then can use scanner class also. So I will use scanner class. So for that I will import here import java.util.scanner, And now after this, what I will do, I will write first system dot out dot println, and here I will write enter a number, or you can say the enter the number of term. I will write here enter the number of terms, and after that, what I will do, I will write here scanner. I will create an object s1, and then I will write new scanner. I will write system.in. Now I will write here number is equal to s1 dot, and then I will write next, and this time I want the value to be given by the user in the form of integer, right? So I will write here int. Okay, so I will give the number value from the user input. After that, I will create a for loop. So I will write for, and inside that I will write I is equal to 0, and I will be less than the number, and then I will be doing the increment in this loop. And inside this loop, again the same logic that I've told you, that if and else condition. So if here I will give the condition if I is less than or equal to 1, then inside this I will put the condition that is next is equal to I. And if again this condition is not satisfied, then I will write here else. Inside else, what I will write, I will write the same logic, next is equal to first plus second, and then I will write here first is equal to second, and inside second next value will be assigned. So this will be the condition for the else statement, right? Now after that, inside this loop I will write system dot out dot print. Why I'm writing print here? Because I want the numbers to be printed in the same line. So I will write here print, and then inside this I will write here plus, and what's the number that I have to write here, next variable, right? So this will be the next variable. And now let me check. Yeah, this is the if condition, else condition, and let me print it out. So on executing it, it is asking enter the number of terms. So let me give here 6 terms. So here you can see that I'm getting the 6th term of my Fibonacci series, starting from 0 and then 1 and 1 2 3 5, right? So total 6 terms I'm getting here. And if you want for 7 terms or 8 terms, so let me execute for that too. So if I'm executing it, and here if I'm giving 9 terms, so you can see that I'm getting a Fibonacci series for 9 terms. So this was the program for Fibonacci series. So the next program that we are having is the factorial of an integer. So let's see the code, how to calculate the factorial of an integer. So here I have declared an integer variable f is equal to 1, I and n. So I will be using for loop, and n will be the number that will be given by the user input, or you can say that n is equal to 5, means that you want to calculate the factorial of 5, right? So what's the logic? So I have used here for loop, right? So here in for loop you can see that I have written for I is equal to 1, and then I have written I less than n is 5, right? So n value is 5, so 5 plus 1 will be 6, and then I plus plus, and inside this I am getting f equal to f into I. So this will be my loop for n equal to 5, right? So you will see that for loop will run, and you can see that I am having the formula f equal to f into I, right? So I have already initialized f value that is equal to 1, so f is 1, and I value will be 1 here, right? So here you can see that I'm already having I is equal to 1, so it will check 1 is less than 6. Yeah, this condition is satisfying. Then it will jump inside this loop, and so inside this loop my f value will be 1, right? Now what will happen again this is a loop, so again it will run. So now this time I value will be 2, again 2 is less than 6, right? So now f is equal to f into I was having, and f value is 1, and this time I value will be 2, so my factorial is 2. Again this loop will run, so f into I, now this time f value is 2 and I value will be 3, so my factorial is 6. Again if I calculate f equal to f into I, f value is 6, this time my I value will be 4, and now factorial is 24, right? So once again this loop will run, and this time my factorial value is 24, and I value will be 5, right? Because if you see I value is 5, 5 is less than 6, yeah. So 24 into 5 if you are doing, we are getting 120. So this is the logic, right? So once I'm getting f is equal to 120, I will write outside the loop this statement and then I will print the value, right? F is equal to 120. So this is the basic logic of factorial by using loop. Now let's see in the practical coding example. So now let's start with the coding. So first what I will write, I will create a class. So I will write here class and then factorial. Inside this class, I will create a main method. So I will write public static void main string and then arguments, right? So after this main method, I will create an integer variable and here I will write integer f is equal to 1 and then I will write I and then n. So here I will be the variable that will be used in loop and n is the number, right? So I can give the value through user input also and I can assign the value also. So let me give the value through user input. So I will write here for user input I will create a scanner class. So I will write here import java.util.scanner and after this once I've created then I will create the object of this. So before creating the object let me write here system.out.println and then I will write enter a number and then I will write scanner and I will create the object s1 is equal to new scanner. I will write system.in and after that n is equal to I will write s1 dot next. Since we are having the integer value, so I will write int here. So now I will take the value from user input, right? Now after this, once this all things are done, I will create a loop. So for I is equal to 1 and then I will write I less than n plus 1 and then I will write I plus plus. And inside this for loop condition, I will write f is equal to f into I. So this is my condition, right? I will close this loop and after that I will write system dot out dot println and now I will write the factorial of a number. So I'll write here plus n is and then I will write here f, right? So I'll write here plus f and then I will close it, right? And after that I will execute it. So on executing you can see that it's asking enter a number. So if I am giving the 6 here, so you can see that the factorial of I will write here number and let me give space number and I will give space and if once again I'm executing it, so it's asking enter a number, I'm writing 6. So it's giving the factorial of a number 6 is 720, right? So this is the basic logic of factorial by using loop. So the next program that we are having is palindrome. So before moving to the logic of palindrome, let's see what is palindrome number. Let's take a number, suppose 153, right? So this is a number and if you are doing reverse of this number then you will be getting 351. So is 153 is equal to 351? Not. So this is not a palindrome number. Now let's take 121. So if I'm doing reverse of 121, I am getting 121. So 121 is equal to 121, right? This is a palindrome number. Let's take one more example. If I'm writing 15451 and if I'm doing the reverse of this number, then 15451 I'm getting. This is again a palindrome number. So when you are doing reverse of a number and the reverse of a number is equal to the number itself, then it is a palindrome number, right? Now let's see the logic for palindrome number. So now here what I will do here, I will create a variable remainder and sum and then a. Sum I will assign as it 0, right? I will tell you the logic, right? So what I will do here, you can see this is my logic for palindrome number, right? Here I have created a variable remainder, right? And I am performing modulus operator here and modulus 10. So here what is n? N is nothing but it will be a value or you can say the number will be given by the user. So let's say I am taking 121, right? So n equal to 121. So here I will also declare n. So I'll write a comma and then n. Okay. Now, so here you will see my n is 121, and if you are doing the modulus, so modulus give me the remainder, right? So the remainder will be 1. Now after that, I have written sum. So initially I have created a variable sum and assigned the value into the sum as 0, right? So you can see that I have applied this formula. So if you are writing 0 into 10 plus remainder is 1, then you are getting the sum is equal to 1, right? And after that we are having n is equal to n by 10, right? So after that we are having this formula. So here you can see that I'm already having a integer n. My n is an integer, so it will give me integer value, right? So n is 121, and if I'm dividing 121 by 10, then it will be 12, right? So I'm getting n is equal to 12, right? Now what I will do here, since I will tell you the logic why here I am writing n is greater than 0, right? So once again, since this is a loop, while loop, so once again this loop will run. Now again the formula was remainder is equal to n modulus 10. So now my n is 12, right? So if you are doing 12 modulus 10, then you will be getting 2, right? And then again I will write here sum will be my sum into 10, right? Sum was my 1 into 10 and plus 2. So I'm getting here sum as 12. Now again I will write here n by 10, and n I'm having 12. So 12 divided by 10, I will be getting n as 1, right? Now what I will do? So once again remainder formula I will go. So remainder formula is equal to n modulus 10, n is 1, and if you are doing 1 modulus of 10, then what's the remainder you are getting? You are getting the remainder as 1, right? And after that, so again I'm writing sum. So you can see the formula of sum, right? I will write sum here. So I got the remainder 1, okay, from here. So if I'm writing sum, my sum was 12, right? So 12 into 10 plus, what is the remainder? Remainder is 1. So I'm getting sum as 121, right? Now after that, I'm having n is equal to n divided by 10, right? Division operator is there. So n was my 1, and if you're dividing 1 by 10, and since n is an integer, so what I will be getting here is 0, right? So you can see that when n value is 0, then I'm getting the reverse of a number, right? Because initially my n is equal to 121, and sum is also I'm getting 121, right? Now you want to check whether the number is palindrome or not. So what will be the logic? So whatever the number you are having, right? If you are doing the reverse of that number, then it will be a palindrome, right? So here the n was 121, and sum also I'm getting 121, right? But while performing the condition in loop, we are getting the n value 0, right? So this can't be possible. So that's why we have created a copy variable of n. So I have created a variable here, and I've assigned the value of n, right? And here I will write the logic n greater than 0, right? Because when n is equal to 0, I'm already getting my reverse number, that is 121, right? Now after that I will perform the condition if and else. So here you can see the condition that I've applied, that a is equal to 121, right? And if I'm sum is also equal to 121. So if this condition is satisfied, then it will print palindrome number, or else it's not a palindrome number, right? So this is the basic logic of palindrome number. Now let's see in the practical example. So now let's start with the palindrome implementation. So here I will first write a class palindrome. I will create a main method. So I will write public static void main string args. After this, what I will do, I will create a variable of integer data type. So I will write int, and then I will write here r, and then I will write n. N is the number that I will be giving. Suppose n is equal to 121 or 15451, right? I can give the n value from the user input also. I will write one more variable reverse, and reverse is equal to 0, right? Now after this, what I will do, I can take the value from the user input also, right? So if you want to take the user input value, then I will write here import java dot util dot scanner, and then I will write scanner s1 is equal to new scanner. system.in, and then I will write n is equal to s1 dot next int, and I will give the value from the user itself, right? Now let's implement the logic. So what I will do, I will here take a while loop, and I will write while n is greater than 0, and inside while loop I will perform my logic. I will write first r is equal to n of modulus of 10, and then I will write reverse is equal to reverse into 10 plus my remainder, that is r, right? And then I will write n is equal to n divided by 10. This is a division operator. So this is my logic, right? So as I told you that while performing the logic, my n value will be 0, right? So I have to take the copy of n. So what I will do, I will create another variable a, and inside this a variable I will assign the value of n, right? Now what I will do, now I will give the simple condition. Let's suppose if a is equal to reverse, then I will write system.out.println, it is a palindrome number. Or else we can also write if condition is satisfied, then I will write else. Again, once again, system.out.println, and then I will write not a palindrome. So this is my basic idea about palindrome. Let me execute it. Before executing, I will put here semicolon, and here, and before executing, let me write one more thing. I will write here system dot out dot println, and I will write here enter a number, and if I'm executing it, then it's asking enter a number. So let me give first 121. It's showing it's a palindrome number. Okay, let's check it for enter a number. Let's check it for 15451. Again, it's showing it's a palindrome number, right? Let's also check for a number which is not palindrome. So I will check here. Let's say 153. Yeah, not a palindrome. So this was all about palindrome number. So the next program that we are having is prime number. So before going to the logic of prime number, let's first understand what is prime number. So prime number is a number which is divisible by 1 and the number itself, right? Let's take an example. Let's take an example of 7. If I want to know whether 7 is a prime number or not, then how will I know? So what's the formal definition of prime number? If a number is divisible by 1 and the number itself, right? So it is divisible by 1 and 7 itself, right? So if I'm dividing it by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so you can see that 7 is not divisible by either of these numbers, right? Now let's come to the logic of prime number. So let's suppose that if you want to know that whether 13 is a prime number or not, so what you will do, you will check it by dividing it by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Till 12 you have to go, right? If you want to know whether the number is prime or not, because the formal definition says number will be a prime if it is divisible by 1 and the number itself, right? So if I will check 13 divisible by 2, I will say no, it's not divisible. 13 divisible by 3, it's not divisible. 4 not divisible, and I will check each and every number up to n minus 1, right? Now let's see the logic. Here I have created an integer I, and I have created another variable a equal to 0. I will tell you the logic why I have created a equal to 0. And here I will also write n, integer n, and I can give the value from the user itself, or you can write any value. Okay, let's suppose if we're writing 13. Now after that I will apply the condition. As I told you that if you want to know whether the number is prime or not, then we have to go till n minus 1 of that number, right? So here I will start from I equal to 2, and then I less than equal to n minus 1, and I will do the increment, right? So that I will check each number. Let's take an example. Here I have given n equal to 13. So inside this loop will increment from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till 12, right? And what will be the logic? So it will check, right? N is 13, and I will write here modulus, and I is 2. So it will check 13 modulus 2 is equal to 0. So it will get to know, no, it's not 0. So once again it will go, and then I value will be 3. Then again it will check 13 modulus 3 is equal to 0. No, it's not 0. Then again it will check for 4. So in this way it will check, right? So what's the logic I have implemented here? I have declared a variable a equal to 0, right? And I have put inside this if condition. Okay, so let's suppose if I'm taking 14, so you can see that 14, if I'm taking 14 here, then 14 modulus 2 will be there, right? So 14 modulus 2, am I getting the remainder as 0? Yes, I am getting the remainders. You can see the logic I have implemented here, a is equal to a plus 1, right? So here a value was 0, right? And now a value will be 1. So here you can see that if the number is divisible, right, then there will be the increment in the value, right? So I have simply put here the simple logic: if a is greater than 0, then number is not prime, or else it's the prime number. So this is the basic logic from where we can solve the prime number program. Now let's see it. So let's start with the coding part of prime number. So once again here I will be using a scanner class so that I can give the user input. So for that I will import here, import java.util.scanner, and after that I will create my class. So I will write here class. So I will give the class name as prime, and after this let me write here capital letter, and after this I will create my main method. So I will write here public static void main string, and then I will write arguments, and inside this main method what I can do, I will create an integer. So let me create integer I, and then I will create a is equal to 0, and then n, and then after that I will write system dot out dot println. I'll write enter a number, then I will write scanner, and then I will write s1 is equal to new scanner system dot in, and then after that what I will do, I will write here n, and as I told you that I want to take the user input, right? So I will write here n is equal to s1 dot next int, right? So this was my basic part, right? So now I have told you the concept of the prime number. So I will be using a loop here. So I will create a loop for, and I have already declared an integer I there. So I will write I is equal to 2, and then I will write I less than or equal to n minus 1, and then I will write I plus plus. Okay, and inside this what I will do, I'll give the condition if n modulus of 2 is equal to 0, then I give a simple logic: a is equal to a plus 1. So after giving this logic, now I will put the condition a is if a is greater than 0, then I will write here system dot out dot println number is not a prime, right? And after that I can give the case else, and inside else I can write system dot out dot println is the prime number. So let me check it. Now I will close my loop here itself, right? And now if I'm executing it, it is asking me enter a number. So if I'm giving 13, it's showing it's a prime number. Let's check for some another number. If I'm giving whether, let's suppose 14 is a prime number or not, it's saying no, it's not a prime number, right? Because 14 is divisible by 2. So this is the basic concept of prime number. Now we will see the concept of Armstrong number. So what is Armstrong number? So let's take a number 153, right? So 153 is having three digits, right? And so what I will do, I will write here 1 and I will do the cube, then I will write 5 and I will do the cube of 5, then 3 cube. And here if you do 1 cube, then you will be getting 1, and 5 cube is 125, 3 cube is 27. If you add this, so on adding I am getting as 153. So this is an Armstrong number, right? Now let's take another example. If I am taking, let's suppose 1464. So here I am having four digits, right? So what I will do, I will write 1 power 4, 4 power 4, 6 power 4 plus 4 to power 4. So if this thing is coming same as 1464, then it will be a Armstrong number. So this is the way to check, right, whether the number is Armstrong or not. Now let's see the logic of Armstrong number. So here in Armstrong number, first I have created an integer variable n, remainder sum is equal to 0. So here n, I can take the n value as, let's suppose that any number, right, any integer values 153 to check. And then I have created another variable remainder and then another variable as sum is equal to 0. Now let's understand the logic. First we are having remainder, that is we are having n modulus 10. So let's suppose that 153 we are having, right? So if I'm doing 153 modulus 10, then I will getting a remainder as 3, right? Now after that, you can see the sum formula. So I have initialized the value of sum as 0. So I will getting here 0, right? And then remainder 3 cube I will be getting as 27. So my sum is equal to 27. Now after that, I have written n equal to n by 10. So my n is 153, and if I am doing 153 by 10, then I will be getting 15, because here n will be a integer, right? So this was my logic that I will implement inside a while loop. Now let's see another thing, how this logic exactly work. Once again, if you see here remainder, so what's the formula for remainder? N modulus 10. Now my n is 15, right? So if I'm writing 15 modulus 10, so what will be the remainder that I will getting? 5, right? So if I'm writing sum, and then last time what was my sum was 27, right? Because sum formula is equal to sum plus remainder cube, and my remainder is 5, so 5 cube. Can you see the pattern here, that last time we were doing 3 cube and this time we are adding 5 cube, right? You can see the pattern, right? So I will be getting the new sum as 125 plus 27, and if I add this, then it will be 152, right? So this is my sum, and again if I am writing n equal to n by 10, so my n is 15, so 15 by 10 I will be getting n value as 1, right? So you can see that was the logic behind there. Here in sum I am adding the value of 3 to the power cube, then 5 to the power cube, and the next time I am performing the while loop, then the sum will be like this: 3 cube plus 5 cube plus 1 cube. Okay, so this will be my sum. And after that, and if you see n value also here, first I was having 153, but 3 was removed, right? Then 5 was removed. So in this way this logic is working and I am getting the value of my sum, right? Now what I will do here, I will see the logic, right? Let's see the logic. As I told you, if the number, let's suppose 153 is a number, and if you want to check whether this number is a Armstrong number or not, so what can I do? This is my logic, right? So here you can see that sum is equal to 153 and my n will be also 153. So 153 is equal to 153, then it will be Armstrong number, right? So I should write here n, right? But I didn't write. The reason is because while performing the logic inside a loop, right, you can see that I'm getting n15, I'm getting n1, and the last time when you will be performing, you will be getting n as n by 10 was there, right? So 1 by 10 you will be getting 0, right? So that's why here logic I have implemented n is greater than 0, right? So this is the logic. So what was the logic? The logic was simple, because n is equal to 0, right? And I can't compare, because if n value will be 0, then how can we compare? So that's why I will create a copy, and I will create a copy as a. So I will create a variable a and I will assign the value of n here itself. So this is the basic logic of Armstrong number. Now let's see the practical example of Armstrong number. So here I will write a class Armstrong, and inside this I will create a main method. So I will write public static void main string args. So now after writing this, so if you want to take the user input from the user itself, you can use the scanner class. I have already showed you in the previous programs how to take the user value. So in this time I will create an integer n, and I will assign the value 153, right? And I will check it whether it's a Armstrong number or not. And then I will write one more variable remainder, and then I will write, let's say, sum. Okay. Now after creating the variable, what I will do here, I will create a while loop. So I will write here while, and I put condition while n is greater than 0. So inside this loop I will give the condition, let's say I will give the first condition as remainder is equal to n modulus of 10, and after that I will write here sum is equal to sum plus remainder, and then after that I can write remainder cube, right? So I have to write remainder into remainder into remainder. So let's write here r. Okay, so I will write here r. Now I will write here r into r into r, and let me initialize the value of sum, right? Because initially we want the sum value as to be 0. This was our logic, right? And after that what will happen, n is equal to n divided by 10. So this was our basic logic for Armstrong number, right? So now we have to check the condition. So what will the condition if n is equal to the sum, right? But as I told you that n value that finally we will be getting as 0, right, while performing the logic inside a loop. So I will create a copy variable of n. So I will create one more variable. Let me create it. So I will write here a is equal to n, right? So now I will perform the conditional statement. So in if condition I will write if a is equal to sum, then I will write system dot out dot println, and then I will write it is an Armstrong number. Okay, and I can give another condition else. Let me close this if condition. After if I will write else system dot out dot println not an Armstrong number, not an Armstrong number. So this was my basic program that I have written for Armstrong number, right? Now let me execute this. So here on executing, it's telling it's an Armstrong number, right? 153. So I will check with another number. So I will write here instead of 153 I will write 370. So if I'm checking it, then you can see that it's telling it's an Armstrong number because 370 is an Armstrong number. Even 371 is also an Armstrong number. So let me check. Again it is an Armstrong number. Now let me check for some random values. So if I'm writing 100, it is Armstrong number. Let me check, and here you can see that it's showing it's not an Armstrong number. So this was the basic idea about Armstrong number. So the next program that we are having is matrix multiplication. So now before coming to the logic, when you can multiply two matrix, let's suppose that this is matrix M1 and I'm writing here 2 3 7 8. So if you see rows, we are having two rows and we are having two columns. So it's a 2 cross 2 matrix, right? And I'm writing one more matrix as M2, and here I'm writing 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. So here you will see I'm having three rows and two columns. So I can write here 3 cross 2, right? So if you want to do matrix multiplication, always remember the column of the M1 matrix must be same as the row of M2 matrix, right? So here if you see that we are having the column of M1 matrix as 2 because we are having two columns, whereas in M2 matrix we are having three rows. So you can see that it is not matching, right? It's not same. Since it's not matching, then we can't do the matrix multiplication. Let's take another example. Let's suppose this time I'm having M1 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 and M2 as 5, 7, 8, 9. And now here you will see I am having 2 cross 2, that is 2 rows and 2 columns. Here also I am having 2 rows and 2 columns. Can matrix multiplication is possible? Yes. If you see here in M1 matrix my column is 2, right? And in M2 matrix my row is also 2. So the column of M1 matrix is matching with the row of M2 matrix. That means matrix multiplication is possible, right? Now let's come to the logic. Now what's the logic of this? So here you can see that I've created a matrix. So in Java, if you want to create a matrix, then we are representing with it two-dimensional array. So here I have created 3 cross 3 matrix having the X name. And then again, I have created a Y matrix that is 3 cross 3. So this is the resultant matrix. And what is the size of this matrix? How did I get this? So this will be the row of X matrix, and here at this index value this will be the column. So in this X matrix we are having 3 rows, and in Y matrix we are having 3 columns, right? So the size will be 3 3, right? The resultant matrix that I am getting. So what I will do now, so I will create here an integer a and I will assign it to 0, and then I will write a less than 3, and after that I will create one more loop inside that, that is nested loop, and I will write int b is equal to 0, b less than 3 and b plus plus. Now what I will do, I will initialize the resultant matrix because we want to calculate it, right? So I will initialize it with the 0. Now after that I will create one more loop, and in that loop I will create an integer variable int c is equal to 0, and then I will write c less than 3 c plus plus, and I will implement my logic. So if you want to do matrix multiplication, let's suppose this is 1 2, this is 3 4, this is 5 7 8 9. So if we are doing the matrix multiplication, you can see that the first row of the M1 matrix is multiplied with the first column of M2 matrix. So in this way the matrix multiplication occur. Similarly, then second rows of M1 matrix will multiply with the second column of M2 matrix. So here I have implemented the logic and I have initialized the resultant matrix as 0, right? So here it will be 0, and here now I am doing the matrix multiplication, right? So now after this I will print this resultant matrix. So this is the concept of basic matrix multiplication. Now let's see in the practical coding. So let's start with the coding part. First I will create a class. So I will write class matrix, and then after that what I will do, I will write my main method. So I will write public static void main, and then I will write a string argument. So this is my main method that I've created. Now I have to create my matrix, right? So for creating matrix, I have to represent it with two-dimensional array in Java, right? So I'll write here int x, and then let me assign the value in this. So I will write just 4 comma 5 comma 6, and then I will make it 3 cross 3 matrix. So I will write here 3 comma 4 comma 5. You can take any value. Let me write 1 comma 6 comma 7. So this is my matrix that I made for x, and let me copy this. I will make one more matrix, and the name of this matrix will be y, and I will just change the value. I will write here 5, you can take here 7, you can write here 8 or 9 or anything is fine. Let me change the value here fast. 5 and then 3 2, I'll write here 10 1 and 7. Instead of 7 I will write here 5. Okay, so these are my two matrices. Now I have to find my resultant, right? So what I will do, I will write here int z. So what will be the size of my resultant matrix that I will be getting? It will be the row of my X matrix and the column of Y matrix, right? So I will write here 3 and then 3. Okay. Now what I will do, I will create a loop. So I will write here for, and then I will write here int a is equal to 0, and then I will write a less than 3. Then I will do the increment, and inside that I will use the concept of nested loop. So I will once again here write for int b is equal to 0, and then I will write b less than 3, and then b plus plus. And what I will do now, inside this loop, I will write here my resultant matrix Z, and I will here write inside this A and then B, and I will assign it to as 0, right? Okay, now what I will do here, I'll write here for, and then I will create one more loop, int C is equal to 0, and then C less than 3, C plus plus. Now after creating this C loop, inside that what I will do, I will perform operation for matrix multiplication, right? So I will write here Z A of B, and then I will write once again, because this resultant matrix has been initialized to 0, right? And I want the matrix multiplication has to be done. So what I will do here, I will write Z, and inside that I will give the indexes A and B again, and then I will write plus, and I will do the matrix multiplication of which two matrix, X and Y, right? So I'll write here X, and I will do the multiplication with Y. So I will put inside here the index as AC and CB. Okay. So now what I have to do, this is my resultant matrix, right? Now I have to print this matrix. So what I will do, I will, for printing, I will write system dot out dot print, and here I will write Z, my matrix I will write here A and B. So this will print my matrix, but so here you can see that I'm using only print, I'm not using println, so that I can get the answer in the same line. So once again I will write system dot out dot println to jump into the another line. So this is my program, and let me execute this. Here you can see that you are getting the matrix. So this is all about the matrix multiplication. Now let's see some pattern in Java programming. So what's the concept of pattern programming? So here you can see that I have used two loops, right? So this is nothing but a nested loop. So let me give you the idea that how this loop work, right? So here I have written that for integer I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 5, and then I plus plus, that is increment, and inside this I have created one more for loop, and this time I have created int j is equal to 1, j less than equal to I, and j plus plus. Okay, so this is the concept. Now why I'm using two loops? So one loop I am using for row, and that is I loop, and j I'm using for the column, right? So let me give you the idea. Since I is equal to 1, right? So 1 is less than equal to 5. This condition will satisfy. So we will jump into this loop. Here you will see that j is equal to 1, right? Our I value was initially 1, right? So j is equal to 1. 1 less than or equal to 1, right? This condition will satisfy. So it will print the j value. So I'll getting my j value as 1 here. And here you can see that I didn't write ln, right? That means whatever the value I'm getting here, it will be on the same line. And here you can see that I have written the inverted comma, so that I can give the space in between the numbers, right? So this is a loop, right? After that, you can see that my j value is 1, right? So it will go for increment. Now j value will be 2. So is 2 less than or equal to 1? Is this condition will be satisfied? No, right? So once again, we'll jump into this for loop. And now I value will be 2, right? Now I value will be 2. So is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes, this condition will satisfy. Once again, I will jump to this j loop, and now here I can see that my I value is 2 and j value was 1, right? Now it will check the condition. Is 1 less than or equal to 2? Yeah, it is satisfying, right? So it will print j valued. So I will be getting here 1. Now again it will go for increment. Now my j value will be 2. So if you will see 2 less than equal to 2, is this condition is satisfied? Yes. So once again it will print the j value because I have written here j. So j value is 2, right? So now you might have a question that why I am getting this 1 and 2 in the next line, right? Because I've used system.out.println, right? Here it will give me the number in the next line, right? So this will be inside this loop itself, and I will close the loop here. Now if you'll see, then j will go for increment, right? So j value will be 3 now, and is 3 less than or equal to 2? No, this condition is not satisfying. So once again there will be increment in I. Now I value will be 3, right? So I will be getting 3 less than equal to 5. Once again this condition will satisfy, right? So 1 less than or equal to 3, right? Once again the loop will run. So it will run 1 2 3, right? So in this way my program will work, and the next time I will getting 1 2 3 4. So here you can see that I have written 2 times system.out.print, one time in this here and another time here. First for putting the value and another for giving the space for the next line, right? So this is my logic of the nested loop. Now let's implement. So let's start with the coding example. So I will write here class, and I will write pattern programming pp. And now after this, what I will do, I create my main method. So I will write public static void main string arguments, and then inside this what I will do, inside this main method I will create my loop. So for int I is equal to, so I will create a loop for first row, right? So I will write I equal to 1 and I less than equal to 5. So how many rows you want? So I can go for 5 rows, 6 rows, any row. So I will write up to 7 this time. So let me write I plus plus here, and now after this I'll create one more loop inside this, that is nested loop concept, and this will be for column. So for j equal to 1, and here j will be less than or equal to I, and then I will do the increment, and inside this j loop I will write system dot out dot print ln, and then I will write here j, right? And I will give space also. So for that, now after this what I will do, I will write one more time system dot out dot println. Remember that I want the numbers in the same line, right? So I write here print, and here if I want to jump into the another line, that's why I'm using system dot out dot println. And now if I'm executing it, you can see that I'm getting my pattern. So this is a number pattern, right? What if you want star pattern? So if you want star pattern, then you can do it easily, right? I have to just write here star. So now if I'm executing it, you can see that I'm getting a star pattern, right? So there are various pattern programming that can be performed by using nested loop. So the next program that we are having is call by value. So what is call by value? Calling a method by passing a value is known as call by value. So you have to keep one thing in mind, that original value will not be changed in case of call by value. So here you can see that I've created a class whose name is CVV, call by value, and I've declared a variable which is of integer data type, and I've assigned the 77 value inside it. Now, as I told you that original value will not be changed. So here what I have done, so I have created a method subject, and inside that I'm passing this parameter int marks, and so inside this method I'm writing marks equal to marks minus 8. Now as I told you, simple, what I will do in this thing, this is my initial original value, right? Now what I will do, I'll create a main method, then I will create an object of this class, and after that I will write system.out.println, and I will write s1.marks. So my s1.marks will be 77 initially, right? But now what I will do, inside a method, this is s1 dot subject, I will pass the value as 98, right? So after the changes, what will be the value that I will be getting? It will be 98 or it will be a 77. What it will be? As I told you that original value will not be changed. So even though you are passing 98 here, that is marks value as 98, then also my original value is 77. I will be getting 77, right? But however, this marks here is the local variable, right? So here the value will be changed. So if I'm passing here 98, then it will be marks will be 98 minus 8. I will be having 90. But original value will be 77. Now let's see the practical implementation of call by value. So let's start with the coding part. So here I will write class CBV, and inside this class, what I will do, I will create an integer data type, and I will give the marks as the name of the variable, and I will give the marks as 99. And the same thing, we will create a method. So for creating method, I will write void, and let me give the name of this method subject, and inside this I will pass the parameter, that is int marks. And inside this method I will write here marks is equal to marks minus, let's suppose I'm taking 16 here. Now what I will do here, after this I will write my main method public static void main, and then I will write string and this parameter. And now after creating my main method, what I will do, I will create an object of my class. So my class name was CBV, so I will write here CBV, and I will create an object, let's suppose S1, and then I will write here new CBV. And then after this, what I will do, I will write here system dot out dot println, and I will write before any change in marks, and here I will write s1 dot marks, right? And if I'm executing it, then you can see that on executing I am getting, before any change in marks, I am getting my value 99. Now what I will do, as I told you, it's a call by value, right? So I will call the method by passing the value. So my method is subject, right? So inside this subject, what I will do, I will pass the value. So now what value I will pass, let's take any value, random value. So I will write here s1 dot, and my method name is subject, and now if I'm giving 88, and after that I will, once again I will write system dot out dot println, and then I'm writing after passing the value, and if I'm writing once again plus s1 dot marks, and if I'm executing it, then you can see that I'm getting, after passing the value, then also my marks is 99. Why? Because we know that in case of call by value, original value will not be changed, right? Now let's see, as I told you that marks is equal to marks minus 60. Here this is a local variable, right? So here the value will be changed. So what I will do here, I will write here system dot out dot println, and if I am writing marks now, so on execution, as we know, the execution will start from this main method. So first I will be getting my marks as 99, right? Because there is no change. So on passing 88 into this method, the subject 88 will be passed instead of int marks. So my marks will be 88 minus 16, and inside this subject method I have written system dot out dot println, right? So I will get the marks new value. So now let me execute this. So on executing, so you can see that I am getting the local variable, that is marks, as 72 here, right? But my original value will be 99. So this was the basic idea about call by value. So the next program that we are having is sorting of an array. So if you want to sort an array, then we are having the several type of methods. So here I will be using the inbuilt functions so that I can show you that with the help of inbuilt functions you can easily solve this sorting of an array. So let's say an example. Suppose this is an array. So inside this array I'm having several integer values. So I am having 78, 15, and then 10, and let's suppose 89. So sorting means if I'm sorting this array, then I will be getting as 10, 15, 78, and 89, right? So this is nothing but my sorting of an array. So for that, you have to do one thing. First, I will import array class, right? So after importing array class, so I will create an integer array and I will assign different type of values, right? So after creating integer array, I will sort it, right? So for that, I will be using the sort method. So as I told you that if you want to use sort method, then you will get your final output like this in ascending order, right? Sorting will be done. So here is the sort method. I've used the arrays class here, right? So I will write arrays dot sort, and inside that I will write array, right? And now what I will do, I will create a for loop, and in for loop I will write I is equal to 0 and I is less than array dot length minus 1. So what is array dot length? So array dot length will give you the length of an array, right? So on counting the length of array, we are getting the length as 7, right? But as we know that the indexing in array will start from 0, right? So this is the 0, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So if we are having the length of an array as 7, then we are having the index value from 0 to 6, right? So that's why I have written here array dot length minus 1, right? And then I have done the increment I plus plus. And after that I have written sop.ln, and inside that I have written array and I have put the parameter I here. So this is a way you can do sorting in an array, right? So let's see the practical example. So let's start with the coding part. First I will write here import java.util.arrays, and now I will create my main class. So I will write here class, and then I will write sorting, and inside this main class I will create a method. So I will write public static void main, and then I will write string arguments, and inside this main method what I will do here, so I will create an integer array. So I will write int array, and I will put some integer values inside this. So I will write 23, let's say 37, 78, 56, 43, 34, and 55. So this is my array, right? And I want to sort this array. So for that, what I will do here, I will write arrays dot sort, and inside that I will put array. Now after that I will write for loop, and inside for loop I'll write here integer I is equal to 0, and then I is less than equal to array dot length minus 1, and then I plus plus. And then after that what I will do, I will write system dot out dot print ln, and inside this I'll write array of I. Now let me execute this. So on execution, you can see that I am getting my sorted array. So let me write this in one line, right? So what I will do, I will remove ln here, and after that I'll give here double inverted comma, and then let me execute this. So on executing, you can see that I'm getting a sorted array in the same line. So this was my example of sorting of an array using inbuilt function.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, So make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video any queries or suggestions, and I will also respond to your comments.